Avoid these foods to combat chronic inflammation. These are the 4 worst foods that cause inflammation. Inflammation is one of the body's natural mechanisms for increasing the flow of blood to an area to fight infections, injuries, or toxins in an attempt to heal itself. When it happens occasionally, known as acute inflammation, it's a positive response. But when inflammation becomes chronic, it can lead to serious health issues such as heart disease, cancer, chronic lower respiratory disease, arthritis, Alzheimer's, and stroke. On the upside, food is one of the key natural ways we can control inflammation in the body. There are plenty of healthy ingredients that fight inflammation as well as a number of foods that worsen it. Here are the top foods to avoid in order to reduce your body's anti-inflammatory response. Number 1. High fructose corn syrup and other forms of added sugar. Added sugars in foods like packaged granola bars, cereal, and fancy coffee drinks can increase chronic inflammation through the release of cytokines and can also raise blood pressure. Consuming excessive high fructose corn syrup and other forms of sugar can also increase your risk of type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, and even cancer. Don't confuse these foods with those that contain naturally curing sugar like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and dairy. We are talking about sugars that are added to foods and beverages to sweeten them. While it's not realistic to cut out all added sugars in our diet, we can certainly stand to reduce our daily intake. Start by using less sweetener in your morning coffee and gradually reduce it to 0. Number 2. Trans fats. While most brands have removed trans fats, they will be listed as partially hydrogenated fats in the ingredient list from their food products. Certain packaged foods still contain them. For example, packaged frosting has 2 grams of trans fat per 2 tablespoon serving. Trans fats have been found to cause systemic inflammation in the body, and eating them has been linked to coronary heart disease. Number 3. Refined carbs. The difference between a whole grain and a refined grain is that a whole grain contains the entire grain kernel. Foods like brown rice, whole wheat flour, oatmeal, and whole cornmeal are all whole grains. A refined grain, on the other hand, has been milled to have the fibrous bran and the nutrition-rich germ removed. Think white flour, white bread, white rice. Refined grains are very easy to overeat. Extra pounds can lead to chronic inflammation. Whole grains help to reduce inflammation in the body. Aim to make at least half of your grains whole. Number 4. Red meat. Meat typically has high levels of both arachidonic acid and saturated fat, which contributes to inflammation. One easy overarching way to counter inflammation is to consume more plant-based foods. Plant-based proteins typically have a markedly lower amount of fat, particularly saturated fat. Plant-based diets that also include plenty of leafy greens and vegetables have an anti-inflammatory effect on the body. This in return minimizes the risk of disease, and even more importantly, those adopting more plant-based option in their diet simply feel much better.